Hello, dear viewer, dear listener. My name is Mumpuli Kiluruma Mohobe, coming to you once again as the host of this wonderful program of ours, Mohobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. I'm bringing to you once again a previous guest, Mr. Khangwenyane, who's coming for the second time to share with us on the subject of happiness in general. We have dealt with certain aspects of it. We want to just delve a little bit deeper. But I'm going to invite you to reintroduce yourself to the viewer and explain who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much, Ramhobi. It's a pleasure to be on your program. And as been said, my name is Wabona Khangwenyane. I'm a Managing Director of Innolead Group of Companies. I like to see myself as an entrepreneur and also as a transformational consultant. As at Innolead, we do management consulting services and so forth. So as an entrepreneur, I founded Innolead Consulting, which was before then was Expert Group, and which does project management, strategy, performance management, and so forth. And we also have a technology company called Digital High Technologies, which focuses on high-end ICT solutions for our telco and general ICT. And we also have a farming operations where we do farming at the Sandveld and Banyana farms, where we do top range Simbra and Chabre cattle. Okay. So that is who I am, sir.
Okay. We talked about happiness last time, and I don't know whether we have a working definition. We did cover a few points. Do you think there's a working definition which we can use going forward? What is happiness?
Yeah, I stay away from very complex textbook definitions. I would like to see happiness as really a state of flourishing, where you feel that when you ask about your life satisfaction of quality of life, it's way above zero or it's above average. Yeah. That's really the simplest form of happiness. In a holistic manner, when you look at health, when you look at your career, when you look at financials, all those things brought together define your level of happiness. Obviously, including what they call positive emotions or pleasures of life that you have access to. So that's really the simple view of what happiness is, to the feeling that you are living your good life.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about countries. What typically are the attributes of happy countries? I'd like you to talk about African countries and then maybe talk a little bit about European and Asian countries. Make those comparisons and tell us what are the attributes that can be detected.
Sure.
And don't be afraid to name names as well.
No, sure, I'll definitely do that.
Yes.
Like I said before, there is a very prestigious survey that's done by United Nations on an annual basis. It's been running since 2007, which is called the United Nations Happiness Report. And that report ranks countries in terms of the level of happiness, looking at 6 criterion. These include health and life expectancy of citizens. It looks at the level of trust of citizens on government and the systems and other people, trusting other people in the country. It looks at the level of generosity in the populace. It looks at also aspect of freedom to pursue your purpose as a people in that country. And of course, corruption as well is looked at. So those are the elements that are measured in these countries.
Yes.
So in terms of the countries that typically score very high, it is interesting that you have countries that have been dominating, for instance, the top 10 of the World Happiness Report. You know, countries like Austria, like Norway, Sweden, New Zealand, Canada. As you can see, Scandinavian countries are always up there, and I'll talk more as to why they score high. And it's important. And as I said before, Ramokhobe, I'm very jealous. I'm very jealous because, you know, as people looking at these dimensions, I believe that we, as well as people of Botswana, deserve to, even if our happiness level, as we said before, we are now in the top 10 unhappiest people in the UN Happiness Report. So that's really quite shocking. And one of my really utter concerns is that there doesn't seem to be anybody who's concerned about the level of happiness of our people and what we can do. I accept that some of the stuff is going to take many years to achieve, but I think we have to start looking at the elements, the ingredients that are key for our people to thrive. It's all about thriving, because thriving people, thriving communities lead to thriving countries. And that's really my aspiration to see Botswana being in the top league. And currently, we've been scoring 146 out of 156. That's very, very bad. And that is why I'm going to share with your audiences some of the characteristics of a happy country, and then also look at Botswana and see what actually, we've just been dwelling on the negative, what actually works for Botswana, where we can see if we leverage those attributes, we can maybe get there.
Before we get to the positives, let's just clear the negative first. in terms of understanding what the gaps are for Botswana.
Sure.
I think that's one talking point that I really want us to dwell on. What are the talking points? Would you say that our approach in Botswana has been too simplistic, or where have we been going wrong?
Yeah, in terms of Botswana, before we go into the top 10 countries, the challenge with Botswana is that we've had powerful and really magnificent start in terms of independence through Sakama, with the discovery of diamonds, with fairly prudent leaders that led us in the 70s and 80s and leading a bit into the 90s. And obviously we cannot take away some of the good things, particularly in terms of GDP. I mean, we are one of the highest ranking country when it comes to GDP per capita in Africa, with about $7,000 for Botswana. So that's very impressive relatively, but obviously that puts us in what they call the high middle income type country. So we still have a lot of work to do, because all the countries that I'll be talking about in the top 10, they're obviously high income countries. So it's one of the essential aspects of a happy country is that people should be able to afford basic things. And even at that level, Botswana cannot afford basic things. So but what is important is that
basic things?
Basic things, I mean, to afford to the level of poverty. Obviously, we still have a level of those countries that don't have poverty. Don't have poverty. They don't have a big gap between the rich and the poor. As I discussed last time, like we look at the Gini coefficient, Botswana has got one of the highest gaps between the rich and the poor in the world. Top 3. That's how we're ranked. So it means that there are people at the bottom of our income scale, and we see them. I mean, I'm a farmer, I travel Botswana. You can see that there are people that are almost in a state of helplessness out there in the rural areas, and even here in town. I mean, you talk to people, you can see that is why it's not surprising that we score so poorly in terms of happiness level. Yes, we've got a growing middle class, we've got an upper class, but it's very little if you compare to the Scandinavian countries, for instance, where they are not super wealthy. In Denmark, they're like the States and other rich countries, but they don't have poverty, and they are very happy to pay high taxes because of the welfare state. The state looks after the basis of its people, like free education, like free health. They've got the safety nets. They've got the safety nets that look after the poorest. In that.
But in Botswana, we talk in terms of poverty eradication. We've been saying that the last 10 years. How are we faring?
I think we're struggling. I really think we're struggling. I mean, we have less than 200,000 people living below the poverty line. And then in terms of abject poverty, the economists will correct me, but I think it's about 120,000 people. I mean, Remokhobe, with the diamonds that we have, why does it take so many years just to get rid of 120,000 people? That's a small town, and we can't get rid of that poverty level. Sometimes it's really the strategies that we...
The poorest of the poor.
The poorest of the poor, yes. The people that are obviously under $1 per day. Those are the people that we need to... I mean, for me, when I go to the villages and the outskirts of Botswana and I see those people, it actually affects my level of happiness. I'm not in that state. I'm one of the people that can afford 3 meals a day, take my kids to good schools and stuff like that. But if you compare to those people, I feel sad about it. Some of these countries, why they so much they inspire me is because they are happy to pay tax to get other people out of poverty, to make sure that that graduate who hasn't got a job, at least he's got something basic to look after themselves.
Whilst he's looking for
a job, and they are happy to see that they are contributing. I mean, in Denmark, they pay tax up to 60%, and 80% of the Danes are happy to be paying that tax. This is out of survey. They are happy because they see where the tax is going to.
Because it has other maybe indirect consequences like lowering of crime and so on.
Absolutely. I mean, Denmark. I'll keep using Denmark because it's a very fantastic country in terms of happiness, where the women with the kids, they can live at a young kid on a pram at a park and actually go buy something, and they expect to find the kid there totally untouched.
Yeah.
That obviously is unheard of in some of these countries.
Let's talk about Africa. Which countries are doing well in Africa?
In terms of Africa, I find it even very awkward to discuss how countries are doing in Africa, because out of the 156, we don't even make it to the top 52. That's happened. No African country scores
54
52.
countries when I last checked.
Yeah,
So
we
none
don't
of them are in
score.
the-
Yeah, they don't. None of them feature in the top 50. And the countries that obviously score better, interestingly, are countries like Nigeria that score better. Your Morocco and
good
those
that
type of
Nigeria is
countries.
scoring
Yeah, but they are really still very unacceptable in terms of. So we don't have thriving nations in Africa. That's really what we're saying. We don't.
There's nothing.
No, there's
Even
nothing.
Mauritius.
Even Mauritius. Mauritius is one of those that are under 100, but it does not. It's not.